All right. So, are you guys ready to talk about China?
Absolutely.
It's definitely been a hot topic. In 2019, Chinese travelers contributed over 200 billion to the global travel economy.
260 billion.
260 billion. Thank you.
Get the number right.
Well, that's why I have brought a notebook with all the statistics.
Yeah, trust those two. I have no notes.
Comes prepared.
Yeah.
So there's been 3 years of pent-up demand, right? That's been happening, and there are a lot of Chinese travelers eager to get back and explore the world. What is the most surprising travel buying trend that you guys are seeing?
Do you want, I mean, you being with an OTA in a buying market, go ahead and start.
Well, I think what may be the biggest trend is, there may be a shift of the pattern of the destination countries. I think given the current different circumstances, geopolitical, the COVID restrictions, I think that pattern may change compared with what we had 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I think, coming from Shiji, we're not seeing the full demand picture, but a lot of what we've seen is, we're going to see the data in probably what's happening with like Chinese New Year and what's really happening now that things have been lifted. But what we've seen so far is things are going to stay local, which means about 6 hours. So for us, that would be a coast to coast. But, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia. So I think a lot of let's try the local markets first, even though it's out of country, just to get comfortable with being able to get out of the country.
Yeah, I echo what Natalie says. For us at Trip.com, we divide the market into two segments. One is so-called short haul, within 6 hours of flight.
Which is funny to me that short haul is 6 hours.
Yeah, right. Short haul. Yeah, and in that area, some top destinations back to 2019 is in the list. The top one is Thailand, I think followed by Japan. Most of them are within that short haul range.
And is that the same that you saw pre?
I say that it's related to all the geopolitical and visa restriction status, right? And Thailand, I think it will still be a very strong market because it still offers visa-free travel to Chinese outbound travelers. And also, they welcome very well, at this particular moment, the Chinese tourists. Okay. We had a live streaming event together with I think it's the director of the National Tourism Bureau of Thailand, just as an influencer in the live streaming show, just in Bangkok. And it was a huge success as well.
Was that the one with the outfits? Is that something else? I remember that campaign.
It happened, yes, it happened on the 11th of January. I don't know if it's the same one.
Okay.
We have sourced from 35 different properties, and the GMV is just overnight. The GMV, I think it's around 40 million Chinese yuan, which is translated into around $6 million US. Wow. But these are pre-sales vouchers. The pre-sales vouchers, it is flexible for cancellation. But generally, we believe, just the conversion rate is more than 30%. Still, it's a very, that's a very decent sum, just for an event.
Okay.
Wow. And Hai-Ming, you mentioned streaming as a way to get more travelers interested. We've seen a lot of new entrants into the market in travel buying, like the TikToks or the little Red Book type apps. Can you first describe, for those that might not know, what Little Red Book app is, and also, how are they changing the market? Are they really getting new travelers to purchase travel, or be cannibalizing people who would buy through other channels?
Okay, first a bit explanation of the context. TikTok is the international brand, and in China it's called Douyin, right? So it's all part of the company called bite dancing. What they do is they use the influencers, we call them the key opinion leaders just in China, the KOL, just to promote the destinations as well as properties. And then you also have a online shopping cart together with the short video streaming, so you can you can do the shopping at the same time. So for me, I think Red Book is something. The little Red Book is something similar, but it's more textual. I think. The purpose is twofold. Now it's a bit mixed because before we have two categories. One is called the inspiration creation, right? It's about creating the demand. The demand did not exist, but the attribution window may be long. The conversion window may be long. The second category is the direct response. We expect, just immediate impulsive purchase after seeing the advertisement. I think, just in the last 3 years in China, a trend emerges that it's a bit the combination of the two, because just the hotel products. That's a very special product. It's not like just the consumer goods that you shop from Amazon.com, right? You have to pick a particular date for your stay.
Targeted.
Yeah, so if you want to do that through TikTok, so the method is that you actually purchase a voucher, and then you redeem it. So that's two steps. The first is the purchase of the voucher, then the redeem, and it creates many logistics challenges. You have to be able to fulfill the dates, minimize the blackouts, etc. So far, I think it is a viable means to create demands at downturn. But just so far, the share of the market is still very small compared with the traditional OTA method of letting the customer choose from a calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think from where we look at it, we launched a product with TikTok with the vouchers, and we had adoption of double-digit hoteliers within a very short amount of time with maximum success. So because they were able to put a product up, have somebody else promote it for them, which as a hotelier can get a little bit nerve-wracking because you don't quite know what customers may arrive, it really put some boundaries around what they could offer. So the great news about that voucher program was that it allowed the hotel to upsell. So you purchased a voucher as a consumer, and then once you actually bought the room, you were able as a hotelier to upsell. We have actually just launched into, I won't mention the global brand in the room, but you are here. We have actually put their booking engine and enabled it on TikTok. So I would encourage all of us, I don't get TikTok. I don't get it. I watch it. It keeps me entertained. I've watched every dog video I can possibly find. But I still, my brain breaks when I think, how does that convert? But I promise you it does. So I would encourage you, if you haven't yet developed a strategy for Instagram, for TikTok, start looking at it. And look at the younger audience that you have in the room. I used to be one of the young kids, and I'm certainly not anymore. So you kind of have to look around and say, who's actively using this within the organization and how can I leverage it? And then one more thing I would kind of talk through, because there's also another, we haven't talked about WeChat, maybe we will. There's also Alipay. So I would ask any hotelier here, if you had the ability to access directly somebody that was spending a certain amount of money. So you could say, I want to know somebody who has spent X amount of dollars in a market, and I'm then going to offer them my elite status or loyalty program. You probably pay to have that and then have them book on your brand.com. That's the kind of stuff that we're doing at Shiji to really kind of take it to the next level, to say, how do we partner, spend with loyalty, and convert that consumer for the hotelier? So again, these concepts to me probably 2 years ago, maybe even 2 months ago, seemed outlandish, but they are happening. They are converting. We've got to think more outside of the traditional OTA, TMCs, there's a space out there, and these influencers, whether or not they would have booked anyway, the data so far is not saying that. It's a completely different customer. Marina Bay Sands, one of the most photogged, Instagrammable pools ever. I mean, a consumer is going there for that experience, and they're learning about it through social media.
And Natalie, you mentioned you're getting a lot of different products partner with you, or
Yes.
perhaps go directly on the booking engine.
Correct.
And are you seeing a lot of different breadth of product and brands and independents reach out to you, or do you
Yes.
feel like this is untapped a little bit?
Both. I think that the independent game is really strong in that region because brands just aren't, especially if you're in, there's two kind of components, the inbound, outbound. But for outbound, it is about that large donut from Palm Springs that you can eat that's the size of, twice the
I've
size of
seen
your
that
head.
one,
Yeah, see, it's the Homer Simpson donut. But it's the inbound brands are not as well known in that region, but outbound it's more of the independents. It's across the board. So I think my suggestion would be, don't think that you're too big and don't think that you're too small to navigate these areas. Just get a trusted partner who can help you navigate it.
And you mentioned WeChat.
Yep.
Is that another emerging channel that,
WeChat's tremendous.
that they're looking to buy
I would
travel?
ask you as a WeChat user. So the current record we understand
Yeah.
is 1.5 billion people interact on WeChat on a daily basis, okay?
Yeah.
How many hours would you estimate that you spend on WeChat? We have an average number, but I'd be curious what yours is.
I will
No judgment.
ask my iPhone. It will tell me.
Get it out.
But my estimate is probably at least 3-4 hours per day.
That's what we hear as well. So WeChat as a component, and you can certainly go into it as a more user. I only use messaging on WeChat. Oops, sorry, I always forget. I'm a hand talker. So WeChat in and of itself is an incredible marketplace. You can message with a hotel before you arrive and say, can you please have food available for me? Or I know that there's a jewelry shop downstairs and I want to get the X, Y, and Z, or the mannequin I saw online has a dress I'd like. You can message and interact and pay, and it's an app within an app. So the effectiveness of WeChat cannot be understated. So again, it's that scrolling mentality, looking through, oh, there's a Kapinski, oh, there's a Hilton, and they then navigate all the way through to the booking path. And it goes directly again to brand.com. So you're not losing any business that you wouldn't have had this business to begin with. So something we talked about last night was kind of incremental, which that's what these channels are, because you wouldn't have an ability to get to a WeChat consumer unless you're in WeChat.
Yeah, both WeChat and Alipay are considered as super platforms
Yes.
in the Chinese app space. One is focusing on social, the other focusing on payment, but they always have a lot of vertical integrations. So super app means for WeChat, it has its core instant messaging functionalities, but also it has this thing called the moments, which is really the social element. It also creates an ecosphere for other applications to run on top of it, which is called the mini program.
Right.
So, just in places beyond China, when we say mobile, we mean probably app or H5, right? But in China, it's beyond the app H5. You may have also, just that mini program, which runs on either Alipay or WeChat. The advantage is really the ease to get the app installed. So, it does not require you downloading the software from an app store anymore.
So I guess I would ask then, if you don't mind me kind of jumping in here. Sorry. So from Trip, what we understand is that you've got multiple brands.
Yeah.
So when you work with someone like WeChat, you have a mini store, a mini program. A Fliggy has a flagship store. So you actually are not only maintaining your own Trip.com. You're then going to the next level and actually also maintaining a website within a website or an app within an app. because it gets much more complex, which again, I think part of what I'm getting at is, as a hotelier or even as a brand, find a trusted partner that can help you navigate this, because it's like,
Brand new space.
Well, we follow our consumers. That's the point, right? So, it's true that we have many point of sales. So we have a Chinese version of the app, which is still using the Chinese language, right?
Okay.
It's what we usually call C-Trip. The other app that we have is the international multilingual one. Just we support more than 20 languages. That's a trip.com group, trip.com app. And beyond that, just we have H5, of course, but we also have a mini program for the Chinese version.
okay.
So Hai-Ming, is there anything new that the trip.com group is doing to prepare for this influx of new Chinese travelers?
I think what we do is all foundational in the past 3 years. We paved the foundation, but we have learned a lot of things. It's probably not only consumer-facing app that's prepared, but also just the foundational layer. Things like just we learned a lot in other markets, like the Japan market. Previously, our knowledge is not deep enough, but in the past 3 years, we try to make our application also working just for the Japanese domestic travelers to book hotels in Japan. Then we realized, our previous knowledge was very shallow, just around things like what is ryokan. So ryokan is actually a Japanese style hotel, very often close to a to a hot spring. And it has a different pricing mechanism. By default, it includes both breakfast and the dinner, and the dinner is the Japanese style. So you have to illustrate the menu in the Japanese way, so you get the authorization to sell. That's the sort of things that we built that knowledge. We transform that into content, and just now with the border open again, we are more confident that we can accompany our Chinese travelers, just to immerse into that experience that previously probably very foreign previously. Now you can become more local.
So content definitely matters. And I think all of us in this room understand the importance of keeping it fresh and optimized and targeting it to that custom audience.
Yeah. Another thing that we do is, it's also very foundational, is just we try to figure out what are the right taxes and fees just for each property. Because, we always reason from the China outbound customers' point of view, just when not all the Chinese travelers are linguists. Right. So, they are probably not that fluent in language. So what they want to do, so first they prefer prepaid products. So they pay using their, the payment means that they get used to. Secondly, they want that payment to be final. Just if the hotel is going to charge the customer again just for the local taxes, for the city taxes, it's a bit inconvenient because they need to prepare petty money for that. Also, it is a surprise if our information is not disclosed clearly. It will be a bad surprise for our customers. For that reason, we've done quite some work to try to streamline all the different taxes and fees, taxes from the government, fees from the properties, just trying to make sure we have accurate information, as accurate as possible, and be responsible for our customers. And they will enjoy, the experience that they expect.
Yeah, so I guess it's important takeaway that the hoteliers make sure whoever they're partnering with, that they're passing along all that information and keeping it up to date and fresh.
Yeah.
Natalie, what about you at Shiji?
What was
anything new?
I was like, where were we? Sorry, I got lost in all the information. I'm such a geek. I think that it's going to really be around the social media, which we've already covered. I won't go more into that, but part of what I would encourage our hoteliers to really think through. The prepaid component is interesting. I haven't heard that, so I think that that's important to make sure, not only from a currency from a currency standpoint, but the ability to capture characters in your systems. So as you're going through and looking at a CRS or a PMS, I mean, obviously in market is very different, but as outbound continues to open, make sure that you actually have systems that can support different characters, because it's a completely different market in the way that things are sent through and processed. But the prepay thing is actually quite interesting to me, because I would imagine from an outbound standpoint, that is something that we're just not used to. If you think about any other product, when do you pay after you consume? You don't get off a plane and say, here's my money. You're paying in advance. And in a hotel, we don't really do that. We let you consume, and then on the way out, we're like, oh, here's your $1,000 in incidentals. So maybe that would be something to explore if that's data that's coming from Trip Group to say, we know that people like prepaid. Maybe there's a component there as a hotelier you could really start to leverage and make work for those outbound customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic. I see also the market trend that even here in the States, just for chains, they are start to proposing the all-inclusive offers.
Yeah.
Just the all-inclusive offers in the past is probably just for certain special resorts like Club Med, for example, very famous for all-inclusive.
You just went old
but
school.
Hilton is doing that, right? So,
Club Med, huh?
all the stuff in France.
You might have aged yourself, my
Actually, it's quite popular in China as well. Just Club Med, because it's acquired by a Chinese group.
Okay.
Club Med. Okay. Anyways, I want to just expand on top of what you said about just the advantage of pre-sales campaign is actually the opportunity for hotels to upsell. I'll quote my statistics again. Among that 260 billion US dollars spent. I think on shopping that's 36.5%, on accommodation 12.8%, and the food and the catering 4.5%. So you see, first we wanted to make the pie bigger. Just hopefully in 2023 it's the year to make the pie bigger, but also to increase the share for the hoteliers.
Mm-hmm.
So the possibility is that just for food and the catering and for also some of the shopping, ticketing, etc. You can build that into the upsells revenue stream for the hoteliers. So it's not necessarily through pre-sales vouchers. We also provide this possibility to list the calendar-based what we call the bundled packages, right? So it's with all the package items in it, and just it has a sort of image-based illustration to attract and encourage conversion of the customers. And I think that's also a very good opportunity because it boosts the revenue streams for the hoteliers. It brings convenience for the Chinese outbound travelers, as said. Just you need to pay only once, just instead of preparing your international credit cards, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
And you mentioned packages. We've talked a lot about how to target independent travelers. With the return of pilot group travel being allowed, I think starting next month, what are some distribution tactics that hoteliers should do to try to get a part of that type of the Chinese travel market?
Very recently, I think it's just in the past week, the Chinese government has submitted a list of authorized destination countries for organized tours. The initial list is 20 countries, 20 friendly countries, let's say. And among the list, I think there are some usual names, usual suspects like Thailand, but also United Arab Emirates, the UAE, but also Argentina, for example, among these.
Argentina?
Argentina, yes.
Who would have thought?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how we are going to do that, because Argentina, normally we fly over the Pacific, we make a stop in the US because the fuel is not enough, right, to support a long haul like this. But how to bypass the US, I don't know so far. But Argentina is in the list.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I think it's still two different sourcing routes so far, just the FIT and the online travel agency, which will bring the liberty to the consumers to, just to combine the flights with the hotels. But timeline-wise, I guess, just the organized tours will happen before, just the OTA route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the thing that is interesting to us is that we're seeing, we as a company who has a big focus in China, the last 3 years have kind of been put on the back roster, the guy, the friend you call when you need to take a date to a wedding. But now we're being pulled in as the front runner to kind of go, how do we access, how do we get this, what do we do? So the good news was those folks, hoteliers who set up a strategy before or over the last 2 years are in a really good shape when it comes to large groups. I mean, I think we go back to our roots. The tours are huge. The tours are really where, that money is. And I will make one more quick point kind of on the independent. I think on the independent travelers, as hoteliers, what we're kind of seeing already is, or expecting to see, especially through the Chinese New Year, is that, if you had your favorite travel destination, so if, I live in San Diego, I drop that all I can because I feel so lucky to live there, so sorry to all y'all have cold weather. So, where I live, I may go up to Monterey as kind of, I sound so totally, I'm sorry, y'all, now, I'm just so happy to be back in California. So I may have a destination that I go to, maybe a couple times a year. Same thing in China. If you were going to Vietnam and you would go there every week, you may now be going for a month. You may be going for 2 months. You're going to be extending that opportunity to get out and actually experience one of your favorite destinations. So, and also the medical component, there was some, questions about practices and what was trusted medically in the country. Mm-hmm. So people might be taking medical trips. They might be leaving and going and doing, if it's other maintenance and other medical things outside of the country. And that, again, could be an extended trip. So I think part of it is what we'll see in the data is maybe while the tours come back, I think there's going to be an extensive length of stay component that is built into this new traveling market because people just want to get out.
More reasons to travel than just
exactly
explore.
And stay and really be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And speaking of trends, we saw that after the announcement happened to loosen up restrictions, there was a report that Trip.com saw the biggest boost in bookings that day after, and a higher average spend per booking, about 30% year over year. What do you attribute that to? Is it longer length of stay? Are they booking more upscale type products, a mix of both, or something else?
Are you asking for our domestic bookings or international ones?
Either, yeah.
Okay. So, the big day was the 7th of December. So overnight, the policy has changed. So the zero COVID policy was changed to a new policy with tolerance. So you don't need to get quarantined just in a hospital. You can get a quarantine just at home. So and then there was an official announcement on the 26th of December. Saying that COVID is still a Class B contagious disease, but the disease control is downgraded to Class B. So it changes everything, just in December. So what we see in terms of the demand, comparing January to December, month to month, that's 100% growth domestically. And year to year, it's about 50%. So this is a busy period. Why there's this difference between 50 and 100 because that's a peak season, just right before the Chinese New Year, the so-called the spring migration. So it's a peak season, but we really see a hike. It's sort of a Chinese New Year period back to normal after 3 years. I myself was grounded just for 3 years in China.
Yeah. It's your first trip.
Yeah, it's my first
to be
trip.
out,
It's my first trip out. I can remember the good days in 2019. You know, just I had my just vacation in France in July, and my last trip, international trip, was to India, to New Delhi in December. And suddenly that you know, just in January, since get worse, you know, there's all the new policies, and there was that lockdown just in Wuhan. So 3 years, yes. And you know, just then when I set out from China, I did a transit in Guangzhou, also known as Canton. From Canton, I took the flight from Canton to Dubai. So it's I saw a huge contrast at that time at Canton Airport, comparing the domestic with the international terminal. The domestic, it's all busy, it's crowded, mobbed with people. But you know, the terminal for international flights, you know, it's empty. It's completely empty. It's because, you know, just things don't change overnight, right? You know, you still need time to recover all the flights, etc.
Well, it looks like we're going to need another panel because we went well over time.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Hai-Ming.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.